All right, should be ready to take off.
Got this thing real quick. We'll be good to go.
Let's see. All right, we hot.
Perfect. Good to go. Okay. All right. Hello and welcome to another week of the Lost Confederacy channel. You have myself, Chief Biko. Also have Chief Alligator today. Here, as always, we focus more so on that first letter in the acronym APOW. Again, today we will go ahead and start off with our readings. But before that, we got a little surprise for you all as well. Just in regards to what we've been talking about as far as, again, the civil rights movement. We just had some news came down that the Marriage Act was passed. And that kind of just correlates exactly what we're talking about. Who the fuck is civil? And how these other groups are able to get these laws passed for our ancestors getting beat, our ancestors protests and things of that nature. So again, once we go ahead and show you all that, we'll do that after we do the readings for today. So first and foremost, to start us off, I will go ahead and show or share our 12 steps of recovery.
And why do we read these? Why do we read this document?
12 steps of recovery, because we need it first and foremost, but it also just gives us our own guidelines, our own set of rules that we need to kind of live by, not kind of, actually implement and live by ourselves if we want to actually get out of this predicament that we're in. So I would say that's pretty much what we need as a group, recovery, both mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, as well as this land. When we read the definition of recovery, you'll see that it says to regain, back to a healthy state of mind, mentality, physical, as well as just reclaiming anything that was lost or stolen from you. So as we see here, step number 1, learn about the estate or estates your family originated from. Step 2, who established that estate. Step 3, what tribe and confederacy had jurisdiction over that area prior to the European. Step 4, ask all nonprofit organizations you attend what's your position on reparations. Step 5, they either support it or they do not. No support equals no money. However, if they do support it, then children and adults need weekly classes free of charge about steps 1, 2, and 3. In addition, field trips to APOW landmarks in that city, county, and state are needed. Step 6, don't support European holidays for the remainder of the 13-week time frame. Step 7, avoid spending money with any small business that does not hire your people. Example, gas stations, nail salons, subways, corner stores, etc. Step 8, all businesses need operating cash, spend money with American businesses. Step 9, all groups rely on our energy and operating cash to survive. So we need to set the trends of making other groups follow our lead and support our clubs, services, products, and entertainment. Step 10, the U.S. government is bankrupt. The Federal Reserve prints money, i.e. quantitative easing. It also burns money, i.e. quantitative tightening. The U.S. dollar hasn't been backed by gold since Richard Nixon in 1971, the Gold Standard Act. The government operates off the full faith of its citizens to pay debt and taxes. American prisoners of war no longer have faith in the U.S. government. This is why financial support will be altered, stopped, and redirected. Step 11, teach your children 1 hour a day about their history on this land. Have them learn about an American inventor. Have them know about our heroes. C, they should know the European that conquered the estate you live in. They should know the nation of people prior to the European invasion militarily and culturally. Step 12, practicing these steps will educate us on the land we're claiming America and attaches us to the history and laws of the U.S. government. Every estate American prisoners of war live in should have steps 1, 2, and 3 advertised via social media radio, and newspaper. This in 13 weeks, one fiscal quarter will bring us together for our common cause. All right. And after that, we will have Chief Alligator give us this week's American Inventor.
All right, let me unmute myself. Yeah, so we do 12 steps. We do an American Inventor every week. We do a quote from Dr. Carter G. Woodson, which is the founder of what we know as Black history. So what we do is just try to provide a positive energy frequency to our group, providing with proof of claim that we're not slaves. We never were slaves. Today's inventor, let me share my screen. Let's see. Let's go here. All right, today's inventor is by the name of A.B. Blackburn. He invented the railway signal, federal patent number 376362. He received that patent on January 1st, 1888. He's from Springfield, Ohio. His invention relates to the railway signals and has reference more particularly to that class in which the signal is operated by the wheel or wheels of the train. This invention added safety for trains going forward and in reverse. It also provided notice to other trains and people that a train was coming. So I'm going to scroll up here real quick so we can show. And this applies to today's railway systems as well. So we can see in this image, figure 1 would be the track that the actual wheel of the train would ride on. It would trip that lever E, and it would push down this mechanism right here, and it would sound off a sound through this device right here to let people know and to let other trains know by sending off a signal that there was a train inbound coming. What we're looking at is mechanical engineering. We have not done the same inventor, and we've been doing this for over a year and a half. So we're talking about what, 52 weeks in a year. So we're talking about, we're pushing close to 80 weeks that we've been doing this, and we have yet to duplicate the same American inventor. So what we're trying to show our people is slaves don't invent and then mass manufacture and then distribute around the world their ideas. Slaves can't make ideas come real. Only lords can. So this is today's inventor, A.B. Blackburn. He invented the railway signal. Let me stop sharing my screen. Let's see here.
Excellent inventor for today. With that, I'll go ahead and choose this week's Dr. Woodson, a Carter G. Woodson quote. Share my screen as well so you all can see that. All right, so this week, I'm going to go with number 3. So number 3, it says, it is well understood that if by the teaching of history, the European man could be further assured of his superiority, and the Negro could be made to feel that he had always been a failure and that the subjection of his will to some other race is necessary, the freedman then would still be a slave. If you can control a man's thinking, you don't have to worry about his actions. When you determine what a man shall think, you don't have to concern yourself about what he will do. I thought that was a good one for this week. And it just kind of holds true with everything that has been in the news lately. Whether it be regarding, Deion Sanders going from HBCU to PWI, we all know the same instruction is given, the same brainwashing is given in each one of those institutions, but just the mindset of, I would say, ownership, of being able to start your own thing, own your own thing, run your own thing. I think we could take a lot from this quote and apply it to our various lives, whether it be, again, our business acumen, or whether it be, just anything you really want to focus it on. Again, business, family, any type of relationship. But again, just being able to see yourself in that position of power as the American. We have to get back to that. And that's why we read an American Inventor every week, giving you a new one, giving you an invention that you haven't heard before, or something in this leading to an industry. So again, we are the creators of these industries. We are the makers of these these big global productions, but again, we reap no benefits from it today. So that'll be something, again, that we need to reclaim, and we need recovery from, because it has been stolen from us. With that, I'll go into the legal definitions. Definition number 1, American, indigenous to America. Number 2, descendants, one who follows in the bloodline of an ancestor, either lineally or collaterally. Number 3, slavery, a situation in which one person has absolute power over the life, fortune, and liberty of another. Number 4, prisoner of war, a person, usually a soldier, who is captured by or surrenders to the enemy in wartime. Number 5, any institution at which instruction is given in a particular discipline. Number 6, education and enlightening experience. Number 7, recovery, a return to a normal state of health, mind, or strength, the action or process of regaining possession of something stolen or lost. Last but not least, going to read our 5 maroon historical points. Number 1 was a person escaping slavery, seeking freedom, or breaking the law. Number 2, providing unity and a strong defense came first. Number 3, maroon leaders were first and foremost military figures. Number 4, maroons established guerrilla warfare, planting sharp sticks and thick grass. And number 5, maroons knew their European enemies' language, defenses, and plans. All right. And before we jump into anything with the video, again, we have to continue to reiterate the hypocrisy and the blatant lies, or inconsistencies, if you want to say, shown within this Constitution, and which are actually being done within this this government. So I'm going to pull up this actual Constitution to show exactly what underneath this governing bodies, procedures, is actual rule book, what money is, what is the supreme law of the land, as well as who has the power to declare war. Those are major key, major things that is important that we need to understand as a group. And with that being said, these actually need to be posted similarly to how a lot of our people have images of, Jesus, Martin Luther King, Barack Obama in their homes. These 3 articles need to be plastered as well within our homes. Everybody should know this. This should be like second nature to our group, especially if we want to get out of this predicament that we're in. So Article 1, Section 8, I'll just go in order. If you read here, it'll state who has the power to declare war. So Congress shall have the power to, and then it lists off the different powers. So we scroll down here, it says Congress has the power to declare war, grant letters of marque and reprisal, and make rules on the capture, make rules concerning captures on land and water. This is what the main reason why we say there was no Civil War. Again, we challenge any scholar, any person out there, the viewer, if you could find us the document where Congress has declared war, whether it be a Civil War or a Seminole War, please share that with us. Because again, we have not found it. It is not there, which makes all of those laws, which makes both of those laws unlawful. And then we go back to the second part here, captures on land and water. We gave 2 treaties last week. If you were able to join us on the Aboriginal TV's channel, shout out to Aboriginal TV, as well as the Indigenous one, as well as to all the new subscribers following us as well. Definitely big shout out to y'all because you want the information. We're here to give it for free. So we appreciate you all support. Continue to engage with us, continue to like, subscribe, things of that nature. But it's very key that we understand this document, because this document in itself will show us the inconsistencies and show us a way out. Again, we read off the Moultrie Creek Treaty, as well as the Treaty of Payne's Landing. and they both pretty much in those documents seceded land. So this is saying here, if we cannot see, or we cannot find, or if there is no rather, document declaring war, a Seminole war, then the capture of those lands are void and invalid, which means those lands need to be given back to the American people, which is us. Scroll down here to section 10, where we see that we haven't been paid money. There is no money. Again, we read off the 12 steps. Step number 10 said that the gold and silver was taken out of this Constitution away from the dollar in 1971. I'm going to show you exactly why that is of such importance. So no state shall enter into any treaty, alliance, or confederation, grant letters of marque and reprisal, coin money, emit bills of credit, make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debts. So again, I've never been paid gold and silver, which Chief Alligator is showing you right now on the screen. This is actual money, people, gold and silver. According to this government's rules and regulations, this government's operating procedure, what he just highlighted, what he just showed on the screen is the only thing that is actual tender for payment of debts. So when we talk about making payment on your house, cars, purchasing anything of that nature, if you have to continue to pay for it, have you really paid off that debt? Simple question with a simple answer, and the answer is no. Because one thing, why? It was never paid in silver or gold, which is the only thing that can be used as payment for debt. And last but not least, we're going to highlight what the supreme law of the land is in Article 6. Scroll down here, paragraph 2. This Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made in pursuance thereof, and all treaties made or which shall be made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. And the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Anything in the Constitution or laws of any state to the contrary, notwithstanding. So again, we gave 2 treaty examples last week, just highlighted them again: Treaty of Moultrie Creek, Treaty of Payne's Landing. If those are the supreme law of the land, in which those treaties are invalid, because again, those treaties were ending a battle of war, Seminole War, which was never declared by Congress. So if those treaties are invalid, again, there's no document declaring a war, all of this stuff is invalid. Because in its own, again, document, its own rules and regulations, operating procedures is saying that the treaty is supreme law of the land, yet those treaties were made, again, in the independence of the United States as well. So that's another key. So definitely
another important thing on this right here, before you jump off of that, people listening to this video, ask yourself a question: why weren't you introduced to treaties in school? Why weren't you introduced to treaties in college? Why are people who look like us in particular introducing you to different ideologies, regardless of religion? If the treaty is a supreme law of the land, all of us should be familiar with those treaties. It's this idea that you have to be a scholar out of a school system in order to read these documents is farce. Anybody aboriginal to any land on planet Earth, they know what happened on their land. But us, we're the only group of people from America. We really don't know what happened on the land. So it's not that we're unique or we're better than anybody. What we're saying is, according to their rule book, they're saying treaties are supreme law of the land. We all should be reading treaties, regardless of wherever we come from on the land. We all should be familiar with what happened.
Correct. Great point. Great point. And lastly, before we jump into the continued reading of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, definitely want to highlight something that just dropped last week on the 9th. So I'm going to share my screen here so you all can see. Just going to play a quick little video. And then we're going to kind of break this down and show how this correlates with what we're reading today.
This is the family Kent and Diego always wanted, but weren't sure the law would allow them to have.
We had to go through so many hoops, whether it was protecting our relationship, then our marriage, then our children.
After the Supreme Court overturned nearly 50 years of precedent on abortion protections this summer, they feared same-sex marriages like theirs could be next.
We were immediately concerned.
And they weren't the only ones.
My 13-year-old turned to me when Roe v. Wade was unwound and said, is our family in trouble? Are we next?
But today,
The motion is adopted.
Congress has them breathing a little easier.
To see this is a huge relief. I can get a full breath.
The House passing protections for same-sex and interracial couples in bipartisan fashion, just as the Senate did last week.
But being gay is normal.
The bill acts as a safety net should the Supreme Court reverse its 2015 ruling enshrining the right for same-sex couples to marry. It requires all states recognize same-sex marriages as legally valid, though it doesn't compel states to issue marriage licenses. Still, it stops old laws from snapping back into place in the absence of court protections, which created an uneven patchwork of rules across the country after Roe.
Michigan is one of those states that still have a constitutional amendment that would not recognize our legal marriage.
Right, but at least this law now says they have to.
Yes, and absolutely. That's all what's beautiful about it.
Ali Vitale, NBC News, Washington.
So just wanted to highlight that. The only way that could be possible for them to actually pass that bill would be from the Civil Rights Act. As we continue to read, as you'll see when we continue to break this bill down, or these multiple Civil Rights Acts, because again, there were multiple of them, you'll see that it says discrimination against, I believe says sex, race, color, pretty much anything. But if we, again, backtrack, go back to the 1960s, the Civil Rights Acts were supposed to be for Jim Crow laws. Jim Crow laws against not gays or immigrants or anything of that nature. It was against the Negro, the Black, the colored. So again, the Jim Crow laws are very specific, yet the Civil Rights Acts were very ambiguous. They're very broad. That's how you can get these different groups of entities, imaginary beings, persons. If we're looking at the legal definition of a person, that's how you can get all of these different groups to get these rights and these bills passed while we continue to be benign and neglected, even though our ancestors were the one fighting to get Jim Crow dismantled. Also want to show this, and then I'll let you kind of build off of that there, Chief Alligator. Show how fast this actually got passed within Congress. So pull this up here. This actions tab pretty much just gives you a timeline of when it was introduced and when it was passed. So if you see here, introduced in the House, July 18th of this year, passed by the President, Congress, and Senate, actually passed by the House and then presented and passed by the President December 9th. So less than 5 months, this was able to get passed. Didn't hear really pretty much a lot about it in the news. They didn't say you had to go ahead and vote this amount of people into the House. If you're a Democrat, you had to have X amount of seats. You got to have X amount of seats if you're in the Senate to make sure, you know, these rules like the George Floyd Act can get passed for you all. It was none of that. It was pretty much a unanimous vote, as you can see here, 61 in favor to 36, 258 in favor to 169. So pretty much a clear selling. Everybody agrees upon these things when it comes to these other groups of people. But when it comes to us as the American, now we have to go through all these different procedures, got to jump through hoops and bounds, got to make sure we have, you know, complete control in the Senate as well as the House and all this bullshit. Again, it's just showing us as the Americans who we are and that we continue to be benign and neglected, and the mistake that our ancestors made as well with this Civil Rights Act. I'll let you go ahead and build off of that, Chief Alligator.
Yeah, what we're doing now is we're going to get down to the root of it. And I'm sure everybody that's listening to this has been asking themselves, especially since 2020, why is it that nothing specifically ever happens for us? right? Why did Joe Biden's first 100 days go by, which is the most important days of a new president, which is the first fiscal quarter? Why is it that nothing specifically got done? George Floyd Act, HR 40 with reparations, defunding the police. And so what we're doing is we're going to get down to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is the Civil Rights Act. Civil was not being Jim Crowed against. Negroes, coloreds, and blacks were the ones being Jim Crowed at the state level. But at the federal level, they came up with a term called civil, which is an accounting term. If you think about the word Negro as an itemized expenditure, if you were a United States government treasurer and you look at, okay, how do we avoid directly repairing the group that we burned towns, murdered the landowners, the men, being hangings in town square, bombed churches, Tulsa, Oklahoma, all these different cities that they destroyed, land that was lost. How do we avoid from righting that wrong? And the way that they were able to do it was come up with a Civil Rights Act. So what we're saying is, who the fuck is civil? Civil wasn't being barred from restaurants and baseball games and state colleges. Civil doesn't need any rights. It was supposed to be the Negro that was supposed to be given rights. But what they did was came up with this term civil, and they put European women in that bowl. They put European gays in that bowl. They put immigrants in that bowl, and they put handicaps in that bowl. So if you look at it from an expense sheet standpoint, they've got 6 different entities that they can allocate resources to and continue to benign and neglect us. And that's the purpose of walking down these documents and actually understanding how we got here.
Excellent point. Excellent point. I just want to highlight again, like you stated, these Jim Crow laws were specific about who they were targeting. Again, Negro, colored. And these are different Jim Crow laws for different states within the, what we would say the southern states at this time. As you can see, very specific in regards to who could not patron restaurants, railroads, pools, things of that nature. Colored persons. Let's see, Negroes, Negro males. Nothing in regards to civil, as Chief Alligator alluded to. Nothing in regards to that. So while they were being very specific at the state level in regards to who the fuck could and could not attend or be within certain businesses, they were very broad and ambiguous in regards to the federal level of who was getting rights. And again, that's how you said you can get these, get the European woman, you can get gays, the immigrant community, all of this into one bowl, while we can now ignore the American who the actual Jim Crow laws were being used against.
If you could, I'll start the reading. If you can drop the link of the Negro, of the Jim Crow laws and the act that we're about to read in the chat, so they can have the document if they choose to read along, and I'll start off the reading for you.
Got you. And we left off on in the event. And I'm gonna blow this up a little bit, make it a little bigger. How's that look?
Okay.
Okay.
So what we're about to read now, while Chief Biko drops those links into the group chat so people can have these documents as well for themselves. In this 1964 Civil Rights Act, we're just reading how the court procedure would work if we chose to file a grievance, because now it's being desegregated. So they're saying that now we can go into their state and federal buildings and file claims because there's not going to be any more intense military occupation, which was called segregation. It says, in the event the Attorney General fails to file such a request in any such proceeding, it shall be the duty of the Chief Judge of the district, or in his absence, the acting Chief Judge, in which the case is pending, immediately to designate a judge in such district to hear and determine the case. In the event that no judge in the district is available to hear and determine the case, the Chief Judge of the district, or the acting Chief Judge, as the case may be, shall certify this fact to the Chief Judge of the circuit, or in his absence, the acting chief judge, who shall then designate a district or circuit judge of the circuit to hear and determine the case. So that pretty much is self-explanatory. If the chief judge is not available, they can assign it to a different judge within that respective district, or they can take it above the chief judge, which would be a district judge. This is important because this is civics. This is one thing that we don't know as prisoners of war on the land. We don't understand how this government operates. It's not that we want to be a part of it, but we do need to understand how it works. So the way it works is each court will have a chief judge. That would be like the judge that is the best judge, if you will. At the Supreme Court level, at the state court level, there's always going to be a chief amongst those judges. Above that chief judge at that particular courthouse is going to be district judges. And then they're going to have a chief amongst themselves. So we have to get this picture in our mind of how they have their structure and their order set up. And it's called jurisprudence. So I'll keep reading. Go ahead.
Not to stop your bill too, just want to hop on that. That's one of the 5 points, Maroon points. You know, have to know our European enemies' language, defenses, and plans. This is their plans. They're laying out exactly their procedures. So it's a good point that you highlighted. We have to understand that if we're going to defeat this.
Correct. It says, it shall be the duty of the judge designated pursuant to this section to assign the case for hearing at the earliest practicable date and to cause the case to be in every way expedited. The district courts of the United States shall have jurisdiction of proceedings instituted pursuant to this title and shall have exhausted any administrative or other remedies that may be provided by law. So we can see that the district court is basically the district court will supersede your superior court in your county, wherever you filed your claim at. So it's got to be escalated. The remedies provided in this title shall be the exclusive means of enforcing the rights based on this title, but nothing in this title shall preclude any individual or any state or local agency from asserting any right based on any other federal or state law not inconsistent with this title. That's basically an out. Including any statute or ordinance requiring non-discrimination in public establishments or accommodations, or from pursuing any remedy, civil or criminal, which may be available for the vindication or enforcement of such right. So even though it will be elevated to the district level, the federal government is still saying at the state level, you still would have to adhere to statute and ordinance. So we have to understand statute and ordinance is not law. The supreme law of the land is treaty. Right up underneath treaty is constitution. Underneath constitution at the state level, because each state has a constitution, at the state level, underneath the constitution is where you get into colorable law. That's going to be your statutes and your ordinance. It's not law. And I think that's where we as a group of people were getting confused, because an ordinance is not law, but you could have a revenue agent called a police officer come up to you and tell you that you violated an ordinance. And if you don't understand that that's not law, then he can sue you on behalf of the municipality that he's representing.
Great point.
Anything you want to throw on that?
Yeah, like you said, the color of law, just remembering the definition, appearing as law, but also but actually might be going against the law being natural law. So that's a great point. That's a great point.
You want me to do Title III?
Yeah, and I could pick up on the next section on that, subsection B.
Okay, so and family, everybody in the chat, I want us to understand this is our history. So when we show pictures of people being lynched and police sicking dogs on us, our ancestors didn't die for the right to vote. They died to end intense military occupation. So you can see Title III of this 1964 Civil Rights Act clearly spells out what this was about. The TV propaganda promotes we died for the right to, our grandparents died for the right to vote. They didn't die for the right to vote, y'all. Self-preservation come first. They died to stop the senseless killings and burning of their towns and having them run and leave everything behind to haul ass out the South. That's what they were fighting for. Title III. Whenever the Attorney General receives a complaint in writing signed by an individual to the effect that he is being deprived of or threatened with the loss of his right to the equal protection of the laws on account of his race, color, religion, or national origin, by being denied equal utilization of any public facility which is owned, operated, or managed by or on behalf of any state or subdivision thereof, other than a public school or public college as defined in section 401 of title, is that title 4 or 6?
Title IV.
Okay. Title 4 hereof, and the Attorney General believes the complaint is meritorious and certifies that the signer or signers of such complaint are unable in his judgment to initiate and maintain appropriate legal proceedings for relief, and that the institution of an action will materially further the orderly progress of desegregation in public facilities, the Attorney General is authorized to institute for or in the name of the United States a civil action in any appropriate district court of the United States against such parties and for such relief as may be appropriate. And such court shall have and shall exercise jurisdiction of proceedings instituted pursuant to this section. The Attorney General may implead as defendants such additional parties as are or become necessary to the grant of effective relief hereunder. So this whole thing is talking about procedure. You can clearly see that they're trying to desegregate public places, except for public school or public college. They put that up under a separate title, which we'll get to as we continue reading. But this is what our ancestors were dying for, y'all. They were dying for access on their own land into public facilities that we lost due to unlawful wars in the South. We were exiled from it. And I'm the first generation born in the 70s that we didn't know nothing about that when I was growing up. I was the first generation that went to school with everybody. So I don't know nothing about discrimination. Jim Crow and segregation. I don't know nothing about that. But here we are 60 years later, and you keep hearing first black this, first black that, first black this. This is why you were banned from it. You couldn't participate in it. Subsection B, go ahead.
Great points there. Subsection B, the Attorney General may deem a person or persons unable to initiate and maintain appropriate legal proceedings within the meaning of subsection A of this section, when such person or persons are unable, either directly or through other interested persons or organizations, to bear the expense of the litigation or to obtain effective legal representation, or whenever he is satisfied that the institution of such litigation would jeopardize the personal safety, employment, or economic standing of such person or persons, their families, or their property. So again, the Chief Alligator alluded to earlier, we're pretty much reading through their procedures at this point. But again, just see how they highlight persons. I just want to highlight persons or persons. Again, not being very specific. And if we look up the actual legal definition of persons, you'll see that it could be a corporation, a business, entity, imaginary person. So now you get to see, you start to understand, okay, how the LGBTQ plus community can get these acts and things of that nature passed from the Civil Rights Acts. You start to see how immigrants can start to get certain acts and bills passed for them through the Civil Rights Act. You'll start to see how all of these different entities, these persons start to get these bills, while we as the American, again, continue to get our heads beat in from these type of things. Section 202, in any action or proceeding under this title, the United States shall be liable for cost, including a reasonable attorney's fee, the same as a private person. Section 303 rather, nothing in this title shall affect adversely the right of any person to sue for or obtain relief in any court against discrimination in any facility covered by this title. Section 304, a complaint as used in this title is a writing or document within the meaning of section 1001, Title 18, United States Code. So now we jump down to Title IV, Desegregation of Public Education. So we got Section 401 as used in this title. So they're talking about what the commissioner, what these different actual words mean. So commissioner means the commissioner of education. Desegregation means the assignment of students to public schools and within such schools without regard to their race, color, religion, or national origin. But desegregation shall not mean the assignment of students to public schools in order to overcome racial imbalance. This is very key because, as we just highlighted a few weeks ago, you had the Cowboys owner, Jerry Jones, pictured in an actual photo trying to stop American students from integrating into a school. Again, no big news about that, nothing of that nature, but you see this is clearly defining what that means as far as integrating into these public schools of that nature.
And here's the bullshit that comes along with that, because I'm old enough to remember this. Both my parents went to quote unquote all Black schools. So my mom graduated in 70, my pop graduated in 65. So they were segregated when they were in school. My generation, Generation X, we were the first generation to not be segregated. But when we look at it from a practical standpoint, the same people that could hang your uncle who was a landowner in downtown of any city, that person can now teach your kids. Like, it doesn't really make sense when we look back at it. Why would you allow people that were burning your towns, making you run from everything that you had inherently had for centuries? Why would you then turn around and send your kids to be schooled by them? Who's at the Board of Commission within the European government? It's other Europeans. So they're going to write the books that your kids are supposed to learn from. What happened to all the Black teachers and Black principals? I'm using the word Black just in general, but what happened to all the American teachers and the American principals of those all American schools before desegregation? A lot of those people got laid off and never made the transition into this new desegregated schooling system. So we lost more ways than one. Go ahead, bro. I just wanted to throw that in.
That's a great point. And it shows here what it says in this very last sentence, shall not mean the assignment of students to public schools in order to overcome racial imbalance. That can be the same thing for shall not mean the assignment of teachers to public schools in order to overcome racial imbalance. So like you stated, what happened to our American teachers that were teaching us before? Now they're unemployed. Again, like you highlighted, we're sending our kids off into these public schools where their husbands, as well as their children, were just at a public lynching, pictured, no criminal charges passed or anything like that. So again, like you stated, just the mindset of our people at this time as well was definitely needed some recovery. I'll start here on subsection 6. Public school means any elementary or secondary educational institution, and public college means any institution or higher education or any technical or vocational school above the secondary school level, provided that such public school or public college is operated by a state, subdivision of a state, or governmental agency within a state, or operated wholly or predominantly from or through the use of government funds or property derived from a governmental source. Subsection D,
Hold on right there. That subsection C is important, because what they're saying is if you're not getting resources from the US government as a school or a technical school,
don't have to integrate.
Right. So if you're independent and you get your own funds for your school, then we can't tell you what to do. But if you're getting resources, i.e. a state would get resources from the federal government, then they would have to adopt and change the way that they who they allow to teach or be taught in their particular building. So you can see how being self-sufficient or debt-free as a group of people, we can see how there's power in that. So when you see these philanthropists keeping schools like a Harvard and things like that, self-funding it so they can call their own shots, that's huge when it comes to freedom. If you pay your own way, you ain't got to answer to nobody. Just wanted to throw that in.
No, that's a great point, and that should not be missed. Subsection D, school board means any agency or agencies which administer a system of one or more public schools, and any other agency which is responsible for the assignment of students to or within such system. Survey and report of educational opportunities. Section 402, the commissioner shall conduct a survey and make a report to the president and the Congress within 2 years of the enactment of this title concerning the lack of availability of equal educational opportunities for individuals by reason of race, color, religion, or national origin in public educational institutions at all levels in the United States, its territories and possessions, and the District of Columbia.
Hold on, what you got right there. Who is the commissioner is what we should be asking ourselves in 1964.
Yeah.
This commissioner that's going to report to President and Congress about whether this new act is actually being implemented throughout the United States, which by this time is pretty much all of what we know now as North America with its 50 states. Were we the commissioner? Was somebody who looked like us the commissioner going back reporting to Congress or president? Or was it one of their own? So you see the game, you're trying to enter into something that wasn't designed for you. You weren't reaping the benefits of it. And you got commissioners and people overseeing this project that aren't in you, they're not for your best interest. So it's like we're climbing an uphill battle, and here we are 60 years later wondering why nothing got done. Go ahead,
Excellent.
bro.
Excellent point. Technical assistance, section 403, the commissioner is authorized upon the application of any school board, state, municipality, school district, or other governmental unit legally responsible for operating a public school or schools to render technical assistance to such applicant in the preparation, adoption, and implementation of plans for the desegregation of public schools. Such technical assistance may, among their activities, include making available to such agencies information regarding effective methods of coping with special educational problems occasioned by desegregation, and making available to such agencies personnel of the Office of Education or other persons specially equipped to advise and assist them in coping with such problems. So this looks like they're going to be implementing, again, somebody who doesn't look like us to even, I would say, assist any of the special need children as well being integrated. Again, that's how you can get your Dr. Umars and people being prescribed as autistic or having ADHD. Again, just go ahead and throw them to the wayside type of thing. So just like Chief Alligator stated earlier in that other paragraph, who are these people being put in these positions to dictate the lack of availability as far as integration? Who are these people actually characterizing or categorizing our children as, special needs or anything like that as well?
And add in to that as well, everybody that's following along, have you seen the word Negro, colored, or Black?
That's the
We
mic
have
drop.
not, we have yet to see this in any documents going all the way back to their constitution. Here we are in 1964 at this point. We've looked at the Freedmen's Bureau Act, we've looked at Homestead Act, you name it. We're reading this out in the public to let our people see. We're assuming or implying that these documents refer to us. But like Chief Biko and I said at the beginning of this video, the state was very specific in who they were militarily keeping out of their living quarters. It was the Negro, Black, and colored. So why during this civil rights era, why is the federal government not being specific with who they're going to allow into schools, the Negro, Black, and colored? We got to catch that, y'all. What they did was opened up the barn door for everybody around the world to participate as a US citizen, but they never specifically righted the wrongs that they did to us. So they integrated us without repairing the towns that they burnt down or made us run out of and lose land. They integrated us without giving back the inventions. That's how we have to see this for what it is. I'll stop right there.
Great point. No, like you said, forced into the system at this point, forced into the system with no resources or anything like that. Training institutes, Section 404, the commissioner is authorized to arrange through grants or contracts with institutions of higher education for the operation of short-term or regular session institutes for special training designed to improve the ability of teachers, supervisors, counselors, and other elementary or secondary school personnel to deal effectively with special educational problems occasioned by desegregation. Individuals who attend such an institute on a full-time basis may be paid stipends for the period for their attendance at such institute in amounts specified by the commissioner in regulations, including allowances for travel to attend such institutes.
So we're back to who is that commissioner?
Mm-hmm.
He's giving out stipends. So what if that commissioner was racist? Which I'm sure he was, because you're dealing with segregation at this time.
Mm-hmm.
So even though you're putting these things in place, and we can't put ourselves back in the 60s because we weren't born back then, but we can look at the after effects 60 years later and say, okay, so you put this commissioner over the training institutes and all this and that, but what if he just didn't allocate money to niggas in the South?
Correct.
So it looks good in writing, but when we look at where we are 60 years later today, we can see how, I'm gonna say this, having preachers talk about business was a huge mistake in the 1960s. Because a preacher comes in from a morality standpoint. We all should get along.
Correct.
You should have, business owners would have been like, no, there's an itemized expense list. Okay, we got 1,000 towns that got destroyed or that people left. We need all of that back. We got over 5,000 inventions which have been mass manufactured around the world. We need that back. This idea that we just supposed to just get along and integrate, that was the worst thing we could have did. I'll stop right there.
No, that's a great
A
point
lot of
too.
people don't want to hear that, but that shit, that this idea, let me just say this last thing, this idea that a preacher is supposed to be in the room as a leader of a group of people, everybody else on planet Earth has military officers leading them.
Correct.
You have to be willing to do business and do war. You can't go in there with your religious book talking about love. The Japanese don't do it. The Chinaman don't do it. The Afghanistans don't do it. The European don't do it. We the only ones walking around talking about belief systems when everybody else got an AK in one hand and an expense sheet in the other. I'm done.
Hey, you dropped the mic on that one, man. You could drop the mic on that one because you're absolutely right. One thing about it, hell, this shit probably wouldn't even be this long if it was actual business people in the rooms making these acts. A lot of this shit would have been marked out. Nah, get rid of that. That doesn't pertain to our group specifically. Nah, get rid of this. That doesn't pertain to our group specifically. Okay, we need X amount of dollars. Like you would have seen some numbers. Right now, we're just seeing what they're claiming that they will do. Again, stipend. How much is this stipend? Who is giving this stipend? Who are the specific people giving this stipend? You're not seeing any of that. So Chief Alligator alluded to, he's exactly right. Exactly right.
We can try to finish grants tonight. And this touches me, Chief Biko, because it's embarrassing for those of us that do business in the real world. When people represent our group as a whole, where's the accountants at? Where's the lawyers at? Where's the business owners at? Why do we always get preachers speaking for us? It doesn't make sense, y'all. Like, we gotta stop this dead idea that you can go pull a reverend who don't have a church. Let me say that again. You can go pull a reverend that doesn't even run a church and put him in front of a TV, and he's supposed to be our spokesperson. Like, we have to stop this bullshit. You don't do business like that. And you wonder why we lose. We let these people get up and start talking religious beliefs. The Black Congressional Caucus, you're in the Black Congressional Caucus. We don't want to hear about God.
Facts.
We're talking about legislation. Everybody got different belief systems. We're not talking about your belief system. We're talking about what's the contract that you're talking about for the people. And it's interesting how Maxine Waters can go to the 1866 Indian Treaty hearing, which we'll get into that, right? A lot of that went over our head. She's out there representing the quote unquote fake freedmen of the fake 5 civilized tribes. But what's this same caucus doing for you to right your wrongs?
Not a damn thing.
Not a goddamn thing. So everybody got to stop getting the pass. I'm done.
And just, I'm glad you highlighted that, because we have to think. When I showed the same-sex marriage bill get passed, we saw that it was pretty much blown out of water. I mean, everybody was pretty much in agreement. I guarantee you, all of those Congressional Black Caucus members passed that bill. They said yay to those bills. They said yay to in the House as well as in the Senate. But when it comes to our group of people, which I'll highlight once we get through this grant, nobody's in agreement when it comes to us getting resources, our group getting protections, things of that nature. So again, we see these people want to be so inclusive. You know, we're all together. The Rainbow Coalition, the Black and Brown community. There is no Black and Brown community. If there was, a lot of our shit would get passed. Nobody else is fighting for you. And we see that the Congressional Black Caucus is in as well. But I'll definitely be highlighting that when we close out. So we have grants here, section 405. The commissioner is authorized upon application of a school board to make grants to such board to pay in whole or in part the cost of giving to teachers, and other school personnel in service, training and dealing with problems incident to desegregation, and employing specialists to advise in problems incident to desegregation, in determining whether to make a grant, and in fixing the amount thereof and the terms and conditions on which it will be made. The commissioner shall take into consideration the amount available for
Here
grants.
we go again, going back to this commissioner. Go ahead.
For grants under this section and the other application which are pending before him, the financial conditions of the applicant and the other resources available to it, the natures, extent, and gravity of its problem, incident to desegregation and others factors as he finds relevant. That's it right there.
So he's the gatekeeper. The commissioner is the gatekeeper. If he don't like you for whatever reason, he ain't got to give you the grant. So when we hear, and I'm not tying Deion Sanders in, but tying it in because it's the HBCUs as a whole, we don't own and control. First of all, we got to get real with, they're not our schools.
Correct.
These schools were funded and started by Europeans. Just pick one. I know Rockefeller did Spelman in the AUC Center, but if we use HBCUs as an example, when they talk about how they didn't have funding and from a sports standpoint, they didn't get large platforms and different things like that. You take a Deion Sanders, who is arguably the best at his position when he was a professional. He played at the highest level. So he knows what correct organizations look like. He started with the Falcons. He left the Falcons because the Falcons were dysfunctional. They had never paid a Black player, quote unquote. They never made a Black player the highest paid athlete on their team. So Deion, flamboyant and knowing he good, he was like, the hell with y'all. So he went on to San Fran. He went on to Dallas Cowboys, and he played both ways. It's only 2 people that ever did that, y'all. Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders are the only ones that played professional football and baseball. So this is not an average man. And I think a lot of us are trying to make Deion to be average. Deion is by no means average. And he's been on winning organizations, i.e. San Fran and Dallas Cowboys. So when he goes to the HBCUs and y'all breaking in his shit, breaking in his car, the ticket sales, because he's a businessman, he's counting the ticket sales. We selling out the damn stadium, that's 60,000 in sales, but you turning in 25,000 worth of ticket sales. So what happens is a lot of misappropriation of funds by the treasury of that school was taking place. And normally that happens with us when we're not used to having resources. So all of a sudden you get a Deion here and everything gets turned up at your school and you're not ready for that cup filleth over effect. And so what happens is you start pocketing money. Well, how long you think that man gonna hang around in that type of environment? So it depends on how you look at it. Some people look at him like he arrogant. I look at it like he can only dumb himself down to a certain point because he's been in highly organized and highly structured places. So yeah, he tried to get it up to a certain point, but then at some point, y'all don't want to pay the man. Fuck it, I got to move on.
Great points there. Great points there. And just in closing out, again, just wanted to highlight, just kind of compare and contrast between, you know, the passing of that same-sex marriage, you know, the different senators, congressmen, congresswomen that were in favor of it versus those that weren't. So again, if we just compare and contrast, we have Senate 61-36 and the House 258-169. Everybody pretty much in agreement, passed in 5 months. We got the George Floyd Act, 2001, whole year, shit on the table, shit on ice, y'all. Introduced February 24th, 2001. They agreed in the House, nothing in the Senate, but barely. 220 to 212. Take a look here, a little further details. Hell, they failed the same day. They had to come back, damn near an hour later. 208 to 219, they said, hell no, fuck them Americans. What we gonna give them some protections for? Then finally, again, 220, 212. So again, just comparing and contrast, we see these, you know, we're all in this together. We're all being discriminated against. You see a lot of talking heads get on TV and say, you know, they can't just be specific. They have to say, you know, the quote unquote Black and brown community. First of all, what is a Black person? We Americans. But I digress. We want to go and say, you know, yeah, the Black and brown community being discriminated against, the minority, people of color. Okay, why are you trying to, again, convolute our struggle with these others? Because you're continuing to, again, benign and neglect yourself at that point. We already see it. We already saw within that Civil Rights Act, you see nothing about the Negro, the colored, the Black. So then we get these people who are supposed to be our leaders, like, again, these Al Sharptons. Again, we have to get rid of that. We need business people in these rooms. We have to stop propping up these celebrities, propping up these entertainers, propping up these preachers and things of that nature as our spokespeople. No other group of people does that. Not the European, not the Asian, not the Indian. No other group of people has their celebrities talking about politics. And that's where we fuck up at. So we got to get first and foremost the right people in these rooms and to be specific and bold enough to say, nah, fuck all this. I'm for my people and my people only. So I just wanted to end on that. Again, we appreciate you all joining us today. Joining us.
Hold what you got, Chief Pico. This link that you put, that I put in here, is this link, because I just put the link in the chat. Does this link have the Jim Crow laws as well as the document we're reading in it?
The link that I put within the actual chat, the group chat? Or the chat?
Right, I just copied and pasted that. So what's in that link?
That should be the actual Jim Crow laws. So I had to get I'll post the actual civil rights document that we're reading now. That should be in the description for the viewer. We'll put that.
So to everybody that's in the chat, we definitely want to give y'all these documents. We're not holding on to them. The more of us get on the same frequency and start reading these documents and get in alignment, that's how we form like Voltron. It's not a big I, little you thing. It's a team thing. We all got to get familiar with this. Can you pull up the Black Congressional Caucus website in closing so we can show the people in the chat the difference between the Asian caucus, the Hispanic caucus, and the quote unquote Black caucus? And we're going to look at it from an accounting standpoint so we can see why things aren't being done for us and why we say the Black caucus is useless.
Pull up some other ones as an example.
And for those that do not know what the Black caucus is, this entity was created the same year they took the money out the system in 1971. It doesn't operate the way it sounds. It's the Black Congressional Caucus. So you would think that it would specifically represent the people who are prisoners of war on the land. However, we're going to take you to their website and we're going to see that they spend money and get money for every goddamn body. But the Asian caucus doesn't do that. And the Hispanic caucus doesn't do that. So every other caucus is itemized and specifically for their people. Here we got this Black caucus and they got this religious approach to business where we gonna spend money with everybody. Shit backwards and upside down. So here we are right here. If we can just go up, just read the about us, that little section. Since its establishment in 1971, the Congressional Black Caucus has been committed to using the full constitutional power that would include treaties, statutory authority that would include states, and financial resources of the federal government to ensure that African Americans, first mistake, African American wasn't even a thing in 1971, 1964. Right. It didn't say Afro-Americans couldn't go into restaurants. They said Negroes.
Hello.
And here's the catch. To ensure that Afro-Americans and other marginalized communities in the United States have the opportunity to achieve the American dream, we should be going to the Black Caucus saying, you need to stop this bullshit. Because what we call that in my generation is ant dicking. That means that we get a little bit, illegal immigrants get a little bit, gays gonna get a little bit. We need to say, nah, fuck all that other marginalized community talk. You need to be working straight for us.
Straight up.
Now let's go to the Hispanic caucus and the Asian caucus so we can see the difference in language.
So I'll go ahead with this one.
Go ahead.
The Congressional Hispanic Caucus, founded in December 1976.
5 years after our shit.
As a legislative service organization of the United States House of Representatives. Today, the CHC is organized as a congressional member organization governed by the rules of the U.S. House of Representatives. The CHC addresses national and international issues and crafts policies that impact the Hispanic community.
Nothing about no marginalized.
They ain't say no marginalized communities, no people of color, the Black and Brown community, the Rainbow Coalition. They said the Hispanic community, period.
Great point. Say that again, Chief Biko, because the TV propaganda will say there's a Black and Brown. When you go to these people's website, there is no Black and Brown coalition. Them people represent the Hispanic community, period.
As they should. Just like we should as well, represent our own community, and that be it. So let's go ahead.
Can you read the remaining of that section right there, just so nail in the coffin?
The function of the caucus is to serve as a forum for the Hispanic members of Congress to coalesce around a collective legislative agenda. The caucus is dedicated to voicing and advancing through the legislative process issues affecting Hispanics in the United States, Puerto Rico, and the Commonwealth of Northern Mariana Islands. So
nothing about no damn marginalized. Do y'all see the play, people? We being ant dick right in our face.
Advancing who? Hispanics. That's it. You don't see African Americans, Asians, other marginalized, Hispanics only.
Can we go to Asian? Here we go. I'll do this one. All right. The Congressional Asian Pacific American Caucus is comprised of members of Congress of Asian and Pacific Islander descent and members who have a strong dedication to promoting the well-being of the Asian American and Pacific Islander community, not other marginalized communities, none of that shit. Currently chaired by the Congresswoman Judy Chu, has been addressing the needs of the Asian Pacific American Caucus community in all areas of American life since it was founded in 1994. So the Black Caucus is the oldest one on the block, 1971. Hispanic Caucus founded in 76. Asian Caucus founded in 1994. Those other two caucuses have done more for their people specifically than our goddamn caucus that's been in existence for over 50 years. If we can go back to them Negroes on the Black Caucus real quick. You got people that's not even American a part of this caucus, or quote unquote Black a part of this caucus. Can you go to Kamala Harris? Where's Kamala Harris at?
Right there.
How is she in the Black Caucus, y'all? Her mama is not born in America. Her daddy is not born in America, but they're going to tell you she's American because she went to a HBCU and we fell for that. Come on, y'all. This is why we got to know who we are, y'all.
Don't forget she pledged AKA. So, you
But
know.
that ain't, yeah, but what they got to do with
I'm
your,
fucking
her
with you.
mama from India,
I'm
her
fucking with you.
dad's from the
Yeah.
Caribbean, but how is she able to shoehorn her way in like she's one of us? And she's not the only one. Those other caucuses don't do that. So we have to raise the standards amongst our people. It's okay to have an exclusive club for your own. We got to get out of this religious thinking with business matters. It's killing us. This fact that we want to see everybody else do good while we get crumbs. This shit don't make sense. Anybody in the chat, y'all got anything that y'all want to ask us about this information? If you haven't seen or knew that the Black Caucus is supposed to be your representation and they're not representing you. Go ahead, Chief Biko.
What's that? Oh no, that was it, man. That was it. That was a mic drop for me. Yeah, y'all, it's finna get crazy. I seen somebody in the chat said it says the American Indian Civil Rights Act. Oh yeah, we gonna get to it. We
getting there. Yeah. We gonna, oh, you gave them the wrong one. You gave them the wrong
one. It might be another one. I gave them the right one. It should be the 64 one. But yeah, you'll see in I believe it was what 1968. It says it highlights American Indians.
We're not gonna get there yet. We gotta walk them through the whole picture so we can step back and look at what happened, because a lot of people sold us out that are being propped up through TV and on propaganda. It's just an unfortunate pill we got to get honest with. The last thing I'll say about the Black Caucus, if you scroll down to their bullet points, this is since 1971, and you hear this same thing from anybody running for office. Look at these bullet points. Okay, their fight is reforming the criminal justice and eliminating barriers to re-entry. Okay, I'm not in prison, so as an American male, that shit don't apply to me. Y'all, you understand, y'all? Like those of us that's not living that lifestyle, okay, that shit ain't got nothing to do with me. What's the next point? Combating voter suppression.
What the fuck is that?
Okay, so I thought that shit was done in 1964. We're reading the Voting Rights Act right now. Expanding access to world-class education from pre-K through post-secondary level. Okay, we reading a document right now from 64 that was supposed to do all that. Expanding access to quality, affordable healthcare and eliminating racial health disparities. Expanding access to 21st century technologies, including broadband. So you want to help niggas get internet. Okay. Strengthening protections for workers and expanding access to full, fairly compensated employment. Expanding access to capital, contracts, and counseling for minority-owned businesses. Who the fuck is minority?
What the fuck?
You're supposed to be saying Black-owned businesses if we're going to use that word, even though we know it's make-believe.
Correct.
Who the fuck is minority? Promoting U.S. foreign policy initiatives in Africa and other countries that are consistent with the fundamental right of human dignity.
We ain't got our own shit to get. What the fuck are you talking about? What about,
Nothing specific for us.
In Africa, see, and that's
what you in Africa for? How about fix the shit that you've been doing the unlawful wars?
Correct.
Called Jim Crow era. Come on, y'all.
Correct. And these the same enemies within our group that try to put us on Africa, that keep perpetuating that slave narrative, that transatlantic slave narrative, that it's all of us were brought over here on these goddamn boats when it really was the European. These the same motherfuckers that are supposed to be representing our group, but we see that they the enemy. So we have a lot of,
No, I was gonna say, just follow the money on it. Basically, what these niggas is telling you when they talk about Africa, what they really saying is, hey, go watch the African make the deposits in the bank. Now you ain't making a deposit, right? But you're supposed to get happy because everybody else making deposits. Your ass ain't getting no resources to make deposits. That's where your street smarts got to come in, and you got to be like, wait a minute, man. I need all that bag. I need the whole thing, man. You can't just you can't put baking soda on what you giving me and you getting everybody else straight drop. Come on, y'all. That's what's going on. We being ant dick. It's time for us to tell people who look like us in their 70s and 80s, the shit over with.
You gotta go, bro. You gotta go. Oh shit. Any closing thoughts outside of that, man? I think
That's it, man.
gave a
I'm
lot to
looking at the
swallow
chat.
today.
It looks like a lot of us are if you want to put those links in the chat just to put the cherry on top, because we need to know who the Black caucus is. We need to know who the Asian caucus is. We need to put them all on the scale. And you wonder why you're being gentrified, because you got a whole caucus that don't fight for you. It fight for all marginalized communities, whatever the fuck that means.
Correct.
A marginalized community could be a group of Europeans that's addicted to pills.
Facts.
Marginalized community could be a gay community of white men.
What we just said, civil is anybody. Civil is a whole goddamn Pandora's box. Anything that you can imagine is civil, according to this document. So like you said, that can, we see the game that's being played on this, and we're not dropping these, Congressional Black Caucus members so we can, vote in this system. Now we creating our own system, but we are outing these motherfuckers who've been bullshitting us and playing us since 1971. Because it has
You
to
can
be
put
done.
the link in my chat. I can put it in the chat for the people.
Drop it here. So that should be the Congressional Black Caucus one.
Okay. Let me put this one in here.
We seen it real time, the effects from these very broad civil rights acts that were supposed to be for our group of people who were getting unlawfully warred against, military occupied, killed, beaten, bit by dogs, sprayed, ripped skin through a fire hose, all these different things. And we're seeing it today. And not being specific and addressing our issues or anything like that. So again, got to break away from this system and reclaim all of our shit.
We need the other two as well, the Asian link and the Hispanic link, so I could put it in the chat.
Not you.
All right, so we're gonna drop for everybody that's in the chat, we dropping these links so you can get familiar. We got this group that's supposed to be representing us, but they're not, because we don't know who they are. And let me do this last one.
Facts. Original Copper Empress. Shout out to you. We need to go ahead and deport these folks. Absolutely.
Yep, absolutely. Shout out to Copper Empress, and shout out to everybody who is trying to form like Voltron and form a confederacy in honor of our ancestors. And just educating ourselves. We can't beat the game until we learn how to play it. It's just like Madden or any kind of video game. When we were young, you can't beat the game until you learn how it's played. We can't get out of this perpetual last place position when all of this is ours until we first learn the rules to the game. So I appreciate everybody that logged in tonight. And we're gonna stay steady like Freddie and just keep dropping these proof of claim documents. And I'm standing on, along with Chief Biko, Chief Black Coat, Chief Quiet Water, Chief Akibalan, Chief Ram, everybody that's a part of this channel, show us that there was a civil war. We're saying there wasn't a civil war. Show us documentation that Congress declared it. Show us documentation that there was a Seminole War. We're saying 40 acres and a mule was bullshit. That went to Europeans. It wasn't for us, because we have the special field order where the military officer wrote that. Military doesn't make the law.
Right.
What else are we saying? We're saying there's no money.
Yep.
So we challenging the world. Anybody who thinks they on their game with American history, whether you look like us or not, rednecks invited. All y'all fake Confederates that's been claiming our ancestors shit, you can come on the channel. We're challenging everybody, but come with proof of claim. We're not debating you. We're not going back and forth tongue wrestling with you. Bring your documents, or we standing on the fact, government officials included, Congress, the president, you supposed to work for your citizenship. We challenging y'all as well. There was no civil war. Show the document. I'm done.
Hey, that's mic drop right there. Again, shout out to everybody in the chat. We greatly appreciate you all. Continue to, like, share, subscribe. Again, all we're trying to do is just educate our people. We're not asking for anything monetarily. You're not here for that. This is all service work, because we understand that we understand the predicament we're in as a group. So we just salute all of you all, the chiefs. And yeah, we're gonna continue to do this, y'all. So again, till next time, appreciate y'all on the Lost Confederacy channel. We out.